Imagine trying to sleep in a world with no air conditioning, no electric fans, no cold rooms, and sometimes the night stayed brutally hot. So what did ancient humans actually do? They had to find clever ways to survive the heat. Some moved their sleeping places, others searched for cooler shelters, and some waited for the temperature to finally drop. But their smartest trick might surprise you. The first solution was simple: get away from the heat. Ancient humans understood shade surprisingly well. Rock overhangs could block the hot air. Caves could stay cooler than the open ground. And underground spaces were even better. The deeper they went, the cooler it could become. So sleeping underground had a major advantage. It protected them from the day's stored heat. But there was another problem: airflow. A cool place wasn't enough. They also needed moving air. A breeze could make a hot night feel much better. So cave entrances mattered. Some shelters had openings on more than one side. That could help air move through. Humans were learning to work with nature. They didn't need machines to stay cooler. They used rocks, wind, shade, and water. Sometimes the smartest solution was right outside the cave. Water was another powerful cooling tool. Rivers stayed cooler than hot ground. Ancient humans could sleep nearby. Some may have rested beside springs. Others used wet ground to cool themselves. But water wasn't always safe. Floods could arrive without warning. Wild animals also visited water sources. So humans had to balance comfort with danger. And that balance shaped where they slept. But there was another ancient trick: sleep timing. Humans didn't always follow today's schedule. During extreme heat, daytime activity could become dangerous, so cooler hours became more valuable. Early morning was often much more comfortable. Night also offered cooler temperatures. Some activity could shift into darkness. Resting during the hottest hours made sense. Their daily rhythm could follow the temperature. But heat wasn't their only problem. Mosquitoes came alive at night. So did many other insects. Sleeping outside could become uncomfortable. Smoke may have helped keep insects away. Fire also provided light and protection. But too much smoke was a problem too. So humans had to find the right balance: cool air without too many insects, comfort without sacrificing safety. But ancient humans had another advantage. They knew where the ground stayed cool. Rock could hold less daytime heat underground. Shallow pits could provide extra protection. Natural depressions could also catch cooler air. Some places were naturally better for sleeping. Humans learned these patterns through experience, generation after generation. Their environment became part of their survival strategy, and eventually, they became experts at finding cool places. But there was still one major problem. What if the ground itself stayed hot? Then humans had to change where they slept. Some shelters were built above the ground. Raised platforms allowed air to pass underneath. That could make sleeping more comfortable. Trees offered another natural solution. Their branches could create deep shade, and the breeze could move through the leaves. Nature itself became their cooling system. But trees had another hidden advantage. They could keep the ground cooler. Their leaves blocked direct sunlight. Their roots also changed the soil, and shaded ground could stay comfortable longer. Ancient humans learned to notice these differences. They didn't need thermometers. Their bodies told them what felt cooler. Over time, these observations became survival knowledge, and that knowledge could mean the difference between a miserable night and a comfortable one. But what happened when there were no trees? Humans had to become even more creative. Open landscapes offered almost no shade, so rocks became valuable shelters. Large stones could block the sun. Narrow spaces could trap cooler air, and cliffs could provide deep shadows. Every landscape had its own solution. Humans learned to read the land around them, and that skill helped them survive extreme heat. But surviving heat wasn't just about finding shelter. It was also about what they wore. Ancient humans needed protection from the sun. Loose coverings could create shade around the body, but heavy clothing could trap heat. So the right material mattered. Natural fibers could be lighter and more breathable, and body movement created its own airflow. Even simple clothing could make a difference. Their survival depended on thousands of tiny choices. But there was one thing humans couldn't control: the weather. Some nights stayed unbearably hot. Others suddenly became cold. So shelters needed flexibility. Openings could let cool air enter. Coverings could block wind. Fire could provide warmth when temperatures dropped. The same shelter could serve different purposes. Humans survived by adapting constantly. And then came the biggest challenge: surviving heat for weeks or months. One cool night wasn't enough. Humans needed long-term strategies. They had to know where water was. They had to know where shade lasted longest. They had to remember safe sleeping places. And they had to move when conditions changed. Survival became a game of planning, not just endurance. But humans didn't survive alone. Groups could share important knowledge. One person might discover a cooler shelter. Another might find a reliable water source, and everyone could benefit. Knowledge became something worth protecting. Children learned by watching adults. They learned where to sleep. They learned where not to go. And survival knowledge passed from one generation to the next. And then humans discovered something even more important. They could change the shelter itself. Branches could become walls. Leaves could become a roof. Grass could become bedding. Stones could strengthen the structure. Slowly, natural shelters became human-made shelters. They were no longer just finding cool places. They were creating them. And that changed everything. Now humans could design their sleeping spills. They could choose the direction of the entrance. They could control how much sunlight entered. They could create openings for airflow. They could add layers of grass underneath. Every improvement made the shelter more comfortable and, more importantly, more predictable. Humans were no longer simply reacting to heat. They were beginning to control their environment. But controlling the environment had a limit. The hottest days could still be dangerous. So humans learned another survival trick. They changed when they moved. During extreme heat, activity could slow down. Travel could happen during cooler hours. Work could begin after the sun weakened. Rest became part of survival. Energy was something they had to protect, and timing became another survival tool. But humans still needed one thing: a reliable source of water. Without water, shade wasn't enough, so they began following rivers. They searched for springs. They remembered hidden water holes. Water also changed where people settled. The best shelters were often near reliable water. Heat had shaped their entire way of life, and water became the center of survival.